Welcome back to What Would You Ask podcast. My next guest, runner-up, season 8, Hell's Kitchen. I thought the best cook on the show, and I said that before. Who do we interview last week that was on season 8? Oh, Vinny. Oh, geez, Vinny and Russell. Maybe I shouldn't tell Russell that. It'll piss him off. He's got to feed people. Anyway, so I told him on that interview, I thought that Russell was the best chef from start to finish. Everybody gets hiccups. Ramsey's not going to let you go through a season without chewing your ass a little bit. So he also appeared in season 10 when they took on the Black Jackets. And of course, the runner-ups said, we're the veterans and we'll kick butt. And they did. He's also appeared on Iron Chef and has helped open a bunch of restaurants all over the country, just like I have. We both share that. I've never opened a restaurant. He was on a mission in the kitchen, man. I'm telling you, he really was. At first, sat back, assessed. It's like a poker player. Let me check the players out at the table. We see who's got quality, who stinks, right? You had people in there from Nona to Raj and everywhere in between. He's got to assess that. And then he just let everybody know, I'm here to kick ass and take names. And if you're in my way, I might run over you. So I'm excited to welcome Russell Kook to What Would You Ask podcast. Hey, Russell.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you. Appreciate you joining us. I know you're busy. I was just talking to Russ off air, telling him that it's amazing. We've done, as you guys know, Amazing Race, The Prophet, Survivor, big Shark Tank series that lasted a couple of months, and the toughest people to get in touch with are these chefs. They are in demand even through the pandemic, right? And busy. So we'll talk about what's going on with Russ today, but I want to start with the journey. What inspired and motivated you, Russell, to even become part of the Hell's Kitchen family and audition?
Well, I mean, for me, the approach was a little different. I was working at a different restaurant in Chicago called Cibo Matto that no longer exists. And one of the producers was in town interviewing people, and she happened to eat at the restaurant. And she talked to the executive chef, who was my mentor, and said, hey, we're interviewing people if you want to do it. And he's like, no. But I know somebody that has a lot of personality that, might be good for the show. And, long story short, I did a 2-minute interview and that was that. I mean, Wow. It was for me. I got lucky. I didn't have to wait in no long line. Didn't have to do any of that kind of stuff. It was kind of, I'm glad I did it, but at the time I was kind of indifferent because I was happy with the direction of my career. So, if I did it, so be it. But we were just opening up a new hot restaurant. So if I didn't get to do it, I'd still have something to fall back on. That was a great opportunity.
Makes sense. Did you, were you familiar with the show? Were you a fan of the show? Seen it occasionally? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think I was familiar with the show. I mean, everyone that's in my industry has heard about, the meltdowns that happen on the show and so on and so forth. And, the talent or no talent or whatever you want to say. And the comparison with, Top Chef and so on and so forth. I had watched shows. I don't think I've watched a whole season per se. I've watched some of the finales and so on and so forth. But, obviously I was interested because, you have a lot of exposure as well.
So you get out to California, you're on the show. Did anything, this is a question from our membership. Our membership sends in questions once we introduce or announce, I should say, who's coming on the show. They send a bunch of questions. So we're going to, as we get through this, we're going to answer some of those questions that they had. One of them was, any differences from what you saw on TV to when you actually went out there, as far as the condo, the kitchen, Ramsey, any differences?
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, there was anticipation of us staying somewhere, but then when we found out where we were staying, I knew in my head, this is going to be tough because you're never leaving this area. You're kind of confined above the soundstage in the dorm, so to speak, or whatever. So, like you're almost like on an island. You're stuck in a small area with a bunch of people that you're not really familiar with. It's a kind of unusual circumstances. It's like when I went to college, you're in a dorm with a bunch of new people. It's kind of get to know everybody and know their boundaries and kind of that thing all over again.
So in my introduction, I said that you kind of sat back like a poker player and assessed the group. Was I accurate there? And what was your strategy? Because that seemed to be how it was. You were always cooking well, but you kind of let your personality, simmer a little bit. And then all of a sudden, once your assessment was done, it was like you came out like a bat out of hell.
Well, I think for me, me and my mentor had discussed a strategy, and the strategy was, just don't play your cards until you have to play your cards kind of thing, like, listen, make good food, but don't make your best food until you have to make your best food, and until you have to do something that is going to make you uncomfortable. Stay in your comfort zone until you can get as far as you can, and then kind of, let the gloves off. There came a certain point though, when enough was enough. It's just like, I can't take this BS anymore. And, what do you, I don't, it's hard to explain without, getting too graphic and let's say, ill-willed and ill-natured, but I think about it right now, and there's definitely some things I would have done differently as far as my leadership or my maturity level, that I look back on. But you live and learn, and this was a great growing experience for me, and kind of learned how far I can push myself.
There's all different levels of chefs. Well, I shouldn't even say chefs. There's the chefs and the cooks. I think you guys know the distinction better than I, but there are people. Does that frustrate you at all? You're an experienced chef coming into this, and there are others that were, would consider themselves the same. But then there was a bunch of others that were, I don't want to say wannabes, but they were wannabes. They wanted to be where you are today. Did you recognize that in your assessment early on and say, Raj is an obvious one, but there were others too. Did you have to make that assessment early?
Sure. You can, it's just like a sporting event. You get out there for your first scrimmage, you see who can play and who can't play. And, you see who your competition is, and not that you're sizing people up, but you are, you're kind of, you're playing the end game in your head. You got like, notches, you're picking people off and thinking who's going to be there at the end, and who you kind of have to align with, so to speak. And, obviously there's a lot of things that can change too when you start to think about that, like how I thought it would play out. I don't think it's necessarily how it played out, but there were some directions that I thought it would go, that it did go in, and so on and so forth. It's weird when you're kind of cooped up in this thing, and you have so many thoughts that go through your head, and kind of how this is going to play out, and how you're going to get to your ultimate goal, and what you have to do to get to that point.
Russ mentioned sports, just to go out over the air. We are definitely, it's the reason why we got Garrett Cole tonight, Yankee fan. So he better deliver in game 5.
It's Cole time.
That's right. Want to go to Ashley from Scottsdale, Arizona. Russell, you were my favorite on season 8, and you got robbed. Wow. How about that? With 3 exclamation points. She says that your team let you down. You were the best chef on the season, and you got robbed. Her question, though, is what was your favorite and least favorite challenge? Good question, Ashley.
Okay. My favorite challenge is the blind taste test. I think it's such a great use of a palate that is something that you can't fake. It's something that is so true to who we are as cooks and chefs. Least favorite challenge. Any of the challenges that didn't deal with the actual true nature of cooking, where you had to do, where you had to run and pick an ingredient. Well, yeah. I still like the idea of doing it, but I love to cook, and I make people happy with food. And if you have to do something else, it just didn't really excite me that much. The band playing at like 2:00 in the morning, the band, that shit was annoying.
My taste test is my favorite too. The other one I like, and I don't remember, I'm watching a lot of tape because I have 4 interviews just today with Hell's Kitchen people. So, but the one where you, chef makes a dish and then you have to look at it, taste it, and then go make it again. It's like taste and make or something. I don't know, some kind of call.
Yeah. That's it's so brutally difficult, because it's the same thing as the taste challenge. You can see it and you can taste it, but are you tasting fennel seed? Are you tasting fennel? Are you tasting, there's
the point. It's so amazing how you guys can decipher. I remember you're talking about there's a sweetness. I don't know where the sweetness comes from. And I'm thinking, well, doesn't it only come from sugar? I mean, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
and it's so not sugar. It's all these other things it could be. It's just amazing that you guys are able to, I couldn't even find the protein. I was like, it's got to be halibut. They use it so much. They must have a lot of it around. And it was not, it was bass or something. But anyway, I don't
Right.
know. It was just, it's amazing. Those are amazing. Tell us a little bit about your favorite reward since we're on challenges and rewards. Did you have a favorite there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love taking the plane trip. I can't remember where we went to. I think we went to Napa or San Diego. I can't remember. And we got to, sit down all the guys and have a dinner. It's just very time together and kind of get away. And, you get to kind of pick chef's ear for a little while and kind of, have a little bit of quote unquote, time with him and instead of, just getting your ass run in the kitchen all day and so on and so forth. That was probably my favorite reward.
So let me work in a question about when you came back for season 10. You got to meet Kevin Cottle and Virginia.
Yep.
They've all been, Kevin's coming on the show, but Virginia's been on the show, and a bunch of those folks. They were kind of up a level to where you were used to, right? With the talent you had there. Was that obvious when you guys were in the kitchen together as a group?
Yeah, I think that the leadership shows. You have 6 or 5 strong-willed people that want to get to a goal, and truth be told, don't want to be embarrassed. You have a lot of pride that's at stake, so you're going to put in a lot of effort to make sure that your pride shows through, and that's what it comes down to. And you had Jason, you had Paula, you had a lot of people that had talent, and or have talent. And I mean, Jason's got restaurants out in Boston. I know Kevin does too. And Paula runs either the Four Seasons or the Ritz-Carlton in Florida. So, I mean, these are all legitimate chefs and cooks. It's not people that, want to be on TV or are striving to kind of make a name for themselves so they can, get their catering business off the ground or anything like that, and that's no shot to those people. But these people are in it for life.
Right. Good segue into Mark's question from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Mark asks, do you stay in touch with any of the chefs that you've met throughout your Hell's Kitchen experience?
Sure. Every once in a while I'll talk to, I talk to Nona probably the most, ironically. I talk to Paula every once in a while, through social media, and I'll do the same with Jason. I don't really talk to a lot of other ones. Every blue moon I'll hear from, Sabrina or somebody like that. But, rarely do I talk to anybody else on the show. Unfortunately, it's just kind of one of those things that, you're thrown into this situation. You might not necessarily talk to somebody outside that you're thrown in the situation with, but, you're thrown in the situation. So keeping in contact is really hard because you might be across the country. It's difficult.
You said this on the show, Boris and Raj are working together. It's like watching 2 idiots do a Rubik's Cube. There's no chance on earth they're going to get it right.
I totally forgot about Boris. I haven't even thought about that, guys. Wow.
That's all you could say. I just wanted to read that quote because I thought it was awesome. It was funny as hell. So let's read another quote. And I want to talk to you about this because this is after you were named runner-up. You said, I'm pissed. I'm pissed. I'm not happy at all. I chose the team that I wanted, and I thought that they would help me win. And in fact, they helped me lose. So, thanks a lot, guys. You'll never get a job in a city that I work. I'm going to definitely blackball you guys because you guys fucking, what did it say? Oh, fuck me so royally tonight. That is obviously emotion, right?
Sure.
But
sure.
Tell us about it.
Sure. This is like literally 5 minutes after Nona comes walking out, and I mean, I knew what the result was because I knew how service went, and I kind of saw this playing out as it's playing out in my frustrations building. But honestly, that to me is just an immature comment. It shows lack of leadership, lack of responsibility, and it's not one of my prouder moments. And there are things like that I think I showed myself that I'm capable of better, and it helps drive me and helps me try to be better as a leader for my guys, because I don't want to see anybody fall like that.
Tell us a little bit about your thoughts of Gordon Ramsay.
I tell everybody the same line. He's first off, he's uber talented. very, very, very talented. There's no question about it. I mean, Michelin stars, blah, 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 but the guy can cook, like you can say whatever you want. He can cook. He's a damn good cook. If I paid you $1 million for an hour to be a complete asshole, do you think you could make that happen? And everybody's answer is overwhelmingly yes. So, I mean, there is a little bit of the play up, and how Gordon Ramsay acts in the kitchen now is not how people act in kitchens anymore. Maybe it was when the show started, because I remember when I was a young cook getting plates thrown at me and shit like that. But you can't do that anymore. It's not like that anymore. But he was always behind the scenes a very, very nice guy, to me.
Got it. Do you think how much of it, and I get listen, Gordon Ramsay can't keep up that energy, and I don't mean the energy of leadership and running the pass and doing the things. Yes, folk, I said pass. I know this stuff. Come on. I don't know shit about it. But it's entertaining, right? If he had a kitchen like that, he would never retain any, cooks at all. But there's also, you are who you are. You are who you are. You're a fiery guy. You're saying there's some growth and maturity. What obviously there is, and what's like to lead, but you can still lose your stuff, and so can he. And he probably loses it a lot more than most. So, did you find that there was a pent up Ramsey for the show, or it's just who he is during that moment? You know what I mean? I'm trying to understand him a little better.
Yeah. So, I didn't talk about this before, but number one, he is unbelievably fucking funny. Like one-liners, doesn't have to think about it. It just fucking comes right off the top of his head. He's really fucking funny. So mine and his camaraderie all dealt around the passion for food, and he could see by the way I treated ingredients. And he always said this to me, is that I had a true passion for food because, listen, the fish is already dead. You don't have to kill it again in the pan. The steak is dead. You don't kill it, quote unquote, make love to it to make it taste good. Yes, he is very fired up and very, very passionate about what he does, but he also has these moments when you can see it building, and he's getting frustrated because plates aren't coming to the pass, his shit's getting missed, where's the sauce? The sauce is a minute behind the food's cold. Now we have to start the whole table over. I mean, that's real life in a proper French kitchen. Is everything comes up to the pass at the same time. It's like I'm talking to the guy that's staying right here. I'm saying I got 2 minutes on the fish. I'm looking at the guy over here that's doing the salads or the sauce. I got 2 minutes on the fish. You're talking to everybody. And when you don't communicate and everything comes from every which direction and it doesn't come up at the same time, it's really frustrating. I know watching videos of him in his own personal kitchen that, back in the day, that was him going maximum throttle, and absolutely fucking nailing people and smashing plates and smashing Wellingtons with his hand and saying this is fucking gross and bush and all that and calling people donkeys or whatever.
Brian Merrill, I don't know if you know Brian Merrill. I think he's a Chicago guy or Illinois guy anyway. He was on one of the seasons. He said this to me in an interview, and I wanted to see if you concur with his assessment. He said that it takes 2 to 3 weeks for any group of chefs on the line together, or I don't know if that's on the line, but whatever, just work together to really get in sync. And we were thrown in a group. It doesn't matter how well you cook together. It takes some time. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like dancing. You have to get in a rhythm. There's a rhythmic bounce to cooking. And you're also cooking food that you're not familiar with. So even if you have a recipe, it's not a recipe that you made where it's like, hey, I've tested this recipe out 6 times. I know exactly what's going to fail and what's not going to fail. And I know where, my opportunity is to kind of catch something is. You kind of have to learn all of that on the fly. So, obviously everybody knows the Wellington is the number one opportunity it's a fucking nightmare. I mean, and people ask me all the time, I work at a steakhouse. Would you put a Wellington on? Fuck no, I don't want to put a Wellington on because it's an absolute fucking nightmare. And it's difficult. Sure, I'd do it for a special event or something, but we're busy and the idea of putting out, 50 or 100 Wellingtons a night. I mean, no way, dude. I'll never sleep. I'll have constipation for the rest of my life. I'm going to fucking fuck up my whole life. I love eating the dish because there's a restaurant in Chicago that serves it. I love eating the dish.
Yeah, I do too.
But I fucking hate it.
Yeah. It's good though when when that's cooked right and you get it. Ooh-wee, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Did you learn to close the book on Ramsey? You mentioned his personality. You mentioned his sense of humor, which has been something that people have said. It's interesting to me that the guy he's first of all, he's a little bit crazy. I watched him on the show where you eat peppers
Yeah.
and
I've
ask
seen that.
questions. That's a funny, if you haven't seen that, folks, go and see it because it really, the true Ramsey comes out. And the guy that does it is so funny. He just keeps asking questions like he's really interviewing, and Ramsey's on the other side dying. And it's just funny because you don't see him in that vulnerable spot. But anyway, there is definitely two people. The guy that's out on reward with you guys, that's breaking bread, that's
Sure.
having conversations. I imagine he's not, there for the 2 hours you're there, but he's there for, I imagine a little bit, and you get to know and have a conversation with him. But then he'll go right back in, and the guy that he was laughing and joking with, he'll hammer that night later on because that's different. He separates the two. Is that a fair assessment of him?
Yeah. I think that's a fair assessment of all good professional chefs is you can separate, the professional from the personal. What you do outside of work is fine, but once you come between the lines, it really is about work. And I think that, I've really toned down my aggressiveness in the last couple of years. My corporate chef just walked by laughing, but I'm still aggressive. And even though I try to build personal relationships with these guys, even if it's my favorite cook, listen, this is business and it has nothing to do with mine and your relationship outside of work. We can be buddy or whatever, but this is my job. My job is to get the food out of the kitchen, to make sure it's hot and accurate and it goes to the table. That's my job. And anything that gets in the way there's going to be hell to pay. That's how it goes.
Two more questions, one about the edit room floor and the other one about the finale, the elimination. And I want to get your sense, and then I want to find out what you're doing today and all that. The first question is from Alex from Jupiter, Florida. He wants to know, was there any funny or interesting moments that ended up on the edit room floor? I'm sure there's a bunch. You guys spent, 5 weeks together or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, there was one time, I can't remember who it was, but I feel like all the girls were really fucking wasted in the dorm room, and we were all having a good time, and in comes like a fucking the producers and saying, everyone needs to calm down. Tomorrow's a big day, and blah blah blah. There was one time, the producers film you 24/7, so
Right.
they have, and they fucking jack up the heat, and then they put on the air conditioning, and they do all that shit. So. I just slept naked. I don't fucking care. Because then I knew they would know that I'm, freezing my ass off, or I'm hot if there's no fucking blanket on. So I would always sleep fucking naked just to fucking.
That's so funny. That's good. Tell us a little bit about, you've had time to reflect on it. We understand the emotion right after. It's like, that I remember there's a Pittsburgh football player. I distinctly remember this on ABC, and he scored a touchdown and to win against like Miami or somebody big. And they asked him how he's feeling right now. And he said, I'm effing alive. Is what he said on national. I mean, and that was his first reaction. Just like asking you went for 5 weeks and they stick, a camera and a mic in your face to ask you, what do you attribute the elimination? Well, come on. I mean, that's ridiculous. But anyway, known as a good cook, that. I know that. I know you felt you were the best chef on the show. Tell us what you look back on that finale. How do you assess it?
Yeah, I think for me, I should have picked people that I thought would cook the best instead of people that would cook the best for me, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes sense.
I should have picked the best cooks. Vinny was a better cook than people on my team. I don't really care about Trevor or anything like that, but Vinny was the one that I probably should have picked up on my squad because he was a decent cook from New York, and he always did well. But hindsight's always 20/20. I went with what I thought worked, and it didn't. And I think that I've come out on the other end of this better than anybody else that was in my season. I mean, yeah. I don't really look back on it as something that sucked or anything. For me, it was a missed opportunity for a bunch of cash and to live out in LA and do all that. But I came back and I still had a great job and so on and so forth.
Does Hell's Kitchen First of all, are you ever recognized? Do you use Hell's Kitchen? I don't know why you wouldn't. It's just another
Sure.
thing that you've achieved. That's an achievement, man. You went through runner up to all, I don't care how many chefs you put in the thing, day after day in a like a meat locker. I mean, that was a
Sure.
sweat locker. Do you use that still today? I mean, you have a successful career. I'm not saying it's necessary, but do you use it at all?
I mean,
back on the show?
when I first got off the show, I was recognized, quite a bit. People would see me or something on the street and recognize who I was, or so on and so forth. It doesn't really happen that much anymore for that reason. But it's still on my resume. So, whether or not, it works or it's an incentive for a job to hire me, I put it on my resume because it is an accomplishment and something that, somebody would want to see, because there is a little bit of exposure there. So if somebody is leaning one way or the other and exposure is a factor, then yeah.
Got it. So tell everybody, Russ, what you're up to today, how things are going. Give us a little summary.
Yeah, I work at Gibson's Steakhouse and Hugo's Frog Bar in Chicago. We're trying to deal with this pandemic the best possible way. It's really, for people that don't understand, our industry is absolutely debilitating. Our industry, it's there. I don't see any way possible that there's not going to be 50% of all restaurants in Chicago closed by the end of the year, unless there's some kind of federal assistance or rent abatement or something. We here are doing okay, and we have 14 restaurants around the country, and we do okay because we are a bigger restaurant group. But there's a lot of restaurant groups that are going to collapse, and it breaks my heart, because more than anything, I like to go out and eat other people's food as inspiration and kind of show them that I appreciate what they're doing, and you just can't do that anymore. And as you see, I got a mask on. We mask it up 24/7. We have outdoor dining maybe for a couple more weeks, and then we're down to 40%, I think, inside. It's going to be tough. I mean, we're going to survive, but every day is a grind.
Yeah.
And every day in this industry is a grind anyway. So it's just, how it's changing and constantly adapting to the ever changing kind of scene that's going on here, until there's like a vaccine or something like that. I don't think people are 100% comfortable with going out. I don't go out as much as I used to, obviously, given the circumstances. I just don't want to get sick, because I don't want to get a bunch of my people sick. I don't want to get my lady sick at home.
Yep.
There's a bunch of factors, but other than that, we're cooking great food, and we're having fun doing it, and trying to just be safe.
Last question for me. That Hell's Kitchen is going to come knocking. They always do. There's
Sure.
been, rookies versus veterans. There's been all-star shows. There's been a lot of stuff going on. You're one of the best chefs on the show. You've had a great career. That goes a long way to who they bring back. You have some personality. You don't take any shit. There's a lot of factors in why they need Russell back on the show. Would you go?
Sure. I like just being me, and I feel like that's who I am, and that's who I was on the show, and people that know me know that I don't really care what people think. I got to take care of myself. I got to take care of my family, and take care of my career. That shit's important. I worked this hard to get to where I am. I'm not going to put that on the line for anybody. And it's cool. And you get exposure, but also you get to learn a little bit about yourself. And that's always fun to see how far you can push yourself and kind of get on that edge and feel uncomfortable. Because I feel like a lot of times, a lot of days, chefs in this industry just get in this kind of comfort, routine. It's always nice to do something that makes you a little uncomfortable.
Awesome, man. Listen, thanks for joining us. We wish you all the best. Keep cooking, doing your thing, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks, Russ.
I appreciate you.
We'll be back with more What Would You Ask podcast in a second.